We live in a time where we can send messages across the planet in an instant, yet most people have never sent a single message to themselves. We chart galaxies with radio telescopes, decode genomes with algorithms more intelligent than any human mind a century ago could have conceived, and yet we rarely pause to consider the one universe we carry within, the living, breathing cosmos that is our own body. How is it that we can split atoms yet remain divided from our own biology? That we can design self-driving cars but not recognize the internal autopilot of thought patterns that silently drive us toward illness or toward healing? This is the paradox of the modern world. Humanity has mastered external communication at the cost of internal conversation. We have learned to speak to satellites orbiting the Earth, but we have forgotten how to speak to the cells that orbit our own consciousness. But what if I told you your body is listening? Yes, your body. Not as a metaphor, not as a poetic ideal, but as a responsive, dynamic, intelligent system made up of trillions of cooperative unit cells that are in every measurable way responding to signals. And those signals, they are not just biochemical, they are linguistic, they are energetic, they are emotional, they are conscious. Your thoughts are not idle. Your emotions are not passive. Every surge of anger, every tremble of fear, every whisper of kindness, every sigh of forgiveness, they're not just felt. They're broadcasted internally across a system so complex, it makes even our most advanced supercomputers look like toys carved from wood. You see, for most of modern medicine, the body has been seen as a machine, something to be fixed, repaired, drugged, or replaced. And to be fair, that model has achieved miracles. It has patched us up, stitched us together, kept our hearts beating when nature said otherwise. But what if the body isn't a machine, but a choir? Not made of cold, indifferent parts, but of living, conscious musician cells each, vibrating with awareness, waiting for the conductor's baton. And that baton is your mind. Now I know. Some may hesitate when hearing language like this. Cells with awareness? Isn't that just poetic flair? No, it's not. We've now seen in experiments across biology and neuroscience that cells do not simply follow chemical instructions. They interpret, they respond, they anticipate, they communicate through intricate signaling pathways, often described as a kind of language, a syntax of survival. White blood cells coordinate attacks like soldiers with radios. Neurons fire and wire, not randomly, but with the precise rhythm of intelligent orchestration. Even your gut microbiome, the bacteria within you, can influence your mood, your behavior, your decisions. And we once thought those cells were just passengers. So ask yourself, if your cells are always listening to chemical cues, what happens when those cues are shaped by emotion? What happens when you speak not just aloud, but within when you think? What happens when you call yourself a failure day after day? When you say you are unlovable? When you whisper, "I hate my body" into the mirror and then wonder why it breaks down? We measure the speed of light. But what is the speed of self-judgment? This isn't science fiction. This is science under a microscope. Psychoneuroimmunology, epigenetics, the study of how your beliefs, your stress, your joy can literally switch genes on or off, can turn healing responses up or down, can silence inflammation or trigger it like an alarm. It is not mystical to say that the mind influences the body. It is mechanistic, it is measurable, but it is also wondrous. Because if your thoughts can make you sick, they can also make you well. This brings us to one of the most overlooked tools in our arsenal: language. Word. Not just words spoken out loud, but the silent ones, inner monologue, the background noise of the mind that plays from the moment you wake up to the moment your consciousness dissolves into sleep. Every word carries frequency, and frequency is energy, and energy is information. And all of it, every syllable, is interpreted by the vast network within you that is constantly seeking to make sense of its environment, both internal and external. Think about it. When you hear someone say, "I love you," your body reacts. Heart rate changes, pupils dilate, stress hormones reduce. Why? Because your body doesn't just hear words. It feels them. It translates them into chemical realities. So why wouldn't the same be true when you say it to yourself? Now, consider this. If a word can alter your heart rate, what else might it alter? Your immune system, your digestion, your pain response? And now stretch this further. Suppose we begin to speak intentionally, not just to others, but to ourselves, to our bodies, not in delusion, but in deliberate calibration. What if you could talk to your knee pain, your migraines, your fatigue, not to ignore them, but to acknowledge and influence them? What if, instead of saying, my body is broken, you said, my body is communicating, and I am ready to listen? This is not fantasy. This is biology's future already underway. The heart has over 40 neurons. It's a thinking organ. Your gut has an entire nervous system of its own. Some researchers call it the second brain. These aren't New Age slogans. They are anatomical facts. Your body is more than flesh. It is a distributed intelligence network. And every word you say, every belief you repeat is a command sent into that network. So the question becomes, what orders are you issuing? We marvel at artificial intelligence learning language models, but forget that you are the original model. You are training your body every day with every sentence you speak to, respond, adapt, evolve. And unlike machines, your cells regenerate. They remember, they rewire. The command center is always live. And this is where responsibility enters the stage. Because once you realize your words are not echoes, they're instructions, then silence becomes its own form of negligence. If you are not speaking to your body with compassion, someone else's programming will fill that void. Culture, media, trauma, old voices that no longer belong in the control room. The real question isn't, can you heal by speaking to your body? The real question is, can you afford not to? Now, if your body is listening, and it is then, every moment you spend unaware of what you're saying to yourself is a moment of lost influence. You could call it the greatest missed conversation of your life. While we pursue dialogue with machines and chatter endlessly with strangers, we rarely pause to ask, what are we broadcasting to our own biology? We monitor our phone batteries more than we monitor our emotional states. We track steps and calories and sleep cycles, but not the words that echo through our minds day and night. Yet, it's these words, the unseen, the untracked, the unspoken aloud, that have the most enduring impact on our well-being, because your body does not need a speaker to hear. It listens through chemistry, through resonance, through repetition. Take cortisol, for instance, often called the stress hormone. Its release is not always triggered by real danger. In fact, it's often triggered by imagined scenarios, by internal dialogues of fear, by stories we replay like old vinyl. I'm not good enough. Nothing will ever get better. I hate how I look. These aren't harmless musings. They are molecular instructions. They activate pathways. They alter immune function. They influence digestion, mood, even reproductive health. And perhaps, most shockingly, they do it silently, invisibly, without ceremony, like a slow leak in the foundation of your own home. But here's the fascinating truth. This influence is not unidirectional. Just as fear can dismantle, hope can rebuild. Just as judgment can corrode, love can restore. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, is not a feature of childhood only. It is a lifelong invitation. Your thoughts can remodel your brain. And because your brain is intimately connected to every organ, every hormone, every cell signal, that remodeling extends outward like ripples from a stone dropped in still water. We don't just live in a body. We broadcast through it. You are a symphony of biology and intention resonating across trillions of receptors. Every heartbeat is an echo, every breath a signal, every thought a tuning fork striking the surface of your being. So ask yourself, what music are you playing for your cells? The ancient sages may have used poetry and parables, but science today confirms their intuition in laboratory terms. Affirmations, it turns out, are not just feel-good slogans. They are behavioral cues that, over time, reroute mental highways. They affect posture, decision-making. They lower blood pressure. They increase pain tolerance. In short, they teach your body a new way to be. Think about a soldier preparing for battle. They don't whisper defeat into their helmets. They don't say, I'll probably lose. No, they speak with conviction because their survival depends on it. Yet we, in the battlefield of life, often chant our own powerlessness like a mantra. I'm tired. I'm sick. I'm falling apart. And while honesty is essential, repetition becomes ritual, and ritual becomes reality. So here's a radical suggestion. Treat your words like medicine, not because they magically cure, but because they create conditions in which healing becomes possible. Speak as if your cells are your students, because they are. Speak as if they're your children, because in a sense, they are born of you, grow with you, and die for you when needed. Now, let me ground this further in something observable. In Japan, a school teacher named Masaru Emoto conducted experiments suggesting that water, when exposed to different words and intentions, formed different crystalline structures when frozen. Words of love produced elegant, symmetrical snowflakes. Words of hate created chaotic, jagged forms. Skeptics scoffed. Scientists debated. But whether you accept his findings or not, there's an unavoidable fact. Your body is roughly 60 to 80% water, and if water is at all impressionable chemically, structurally, or vibrationally, then what are your daily thoughts doing to your internal ocean? Now, pair that with this. Cells are constantly eavesdropping on your bloodstream. Hormones, neurotransmitters, peptides all circulating, all telling stories. Stories of fear or joy, of shame or hope. These molecules don't care if the story is true. They respond to the signal. And the signal is shaped by thought. So imagine your internal world as a conference call. Your liver, your heart, your immune system all listening. And every thought is a directive, an agenda item, a tone-setting statement that ripples through the ranks. You don't have to shout, but you do have to mean it. Now, let's bring this into practice. How do you begin commanding your cells toward healing? Start simple. Acknowledge their intelligence. Say, I know you're working hard. Say, thank you for repairing me while I sleep. Say, I trust you. It may feel awkward, even absurd at first. That's only because you've been trained not to speak inwardly with kindness. But like any language, fluency comes with practice. Speak to your pain. Ask what it needs. Speak to your fatigue. Ask what it's protecting you from. Speak to your heart. Tell it you hear it. Speak to your skin. Tell it you're sorry for judging it. Speak to your stomach. Apologize for the stress you fed it. These are not placebo conversations. These are biochemical interventions dressed in language. This is not magic. It's not mystery. It's the profound intersection of attention and biology. Wherever your awareness goes, energy follows, and where energy flows, healing can take root. We train athletes to visualize recovery. We train astronauts to rehearse success. We use guided imagery for surgery prep, reducing healing time and pain. Why? Because the mind is not passive. It is a participant in biology. It is the co-author of your cellular story. The great physicist Max Planck, father of quantum theory, once said, I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness. So when you speak to your cells, you are not hallucinating. You are engaging in a kind of quantum authorship interface where intention touches the levers of molecular life. It's no wonder then that chronic stress, trauma, or self-hatred can disable entire systems. The language of unworthiness is not just psychological, it is immunological. The absence of love isn't just a poetic wound, it's a biological vulnerability. But this also means the opposite is true. The presence of love spoken, repeated, believed, can become a biological strength. We've seen it in studies where patients who feel heard, seen, and valued recover faster. Placebo surgeries with only an incision and no operation still produce healing because belief is itself an active agent. And what is belief if not the story you tell your body over and over? The body remembers what the mind forgets. It stores not only trauma, but the words we wrap around that trauma. Think of your body not as a record player, but as the record it solfeged with the grooves of your life's emotional soundtrack. And those grooves, over time, become habits of health or decline. You may not recall the exact moment you decided you were unworthy, but your cells do. The tightness in your chest, the shallow breath in your lungs, the inflammation that doesn't seem to go away. These aren't just symptoms, they are history, biological echoes of emotional events. Let's put it this way. Trauma is not just what happened to you, it's what happened inside you when you didn't have the language, the support, or the safety to process it. And so the body stored it for later. Like a conscientious assistant filing away urgent messages, your body held on to what your mind could not yet handle. But here's the twist. The body doesn't hold on as punishment. It holds on in hopes you'll one day return and listen. And when you finally speak back with compassion, with curiosity, with courage, it listens, with a kind of relief that transcends words, because finally the command has changed. Finally, the narrative has shifted. No longer in order to brace, tense, fight, or freeze, but an invitation to release, to rest, to regenerate. The science of epigenetics tells us that genes are not destiny, they are potential. Like piano keys on a board, what matters is which ones are played and how often and with what intensity. And who is the pianist? You are, through environment, through choices, through thought, through language. Imagine telling your body with sincerity, I am safe now. For someone who has lived in chronic stress, that's not just comforting, it's revolutionary. It tells the amygdala to stand down. It tells cortisol to take a break. It invites oxytocin and serotonin to re-enter the room. And suddenly, what once felt like a battlefield begins to feel like a home again. This is the unspoken miracle of self-forgiveness. Not a vague emotional release, but a measurable biological act. Studies show that forgiving yourself or others is linked to lower blood pressure, better sleep, enhanced immune function, and reduced inflammation. It is a medicine no pharmacy can sell, a dialogue no physician can script. So why is it so hard? Because we've been taught to judge first, then justify love. We believe we must earn peace, when peace was always our biological birthright. We learn to speak to others with tact, yet never practice kindness in our inner monologues. And over time, that internal harshness calcifies into illness, fatigue, and disconnection. But the good news? Plasticity is always available. You can change the script. You can reprogram the language of your biology. It starts with this awareness. Every time you think, you are shaping your health. Every time you speak, you are informing your cells. Every belief you hold is a signal, and every signal has a consequence. Let's make this even more practical. Consider the rice experiment, a modern reenactment of Dr. Emoto's findings. 3 jars of rice, one spoken to with love, one with hate, one ignored entirely. Over time, the rice exposed to love remained fresh, the rice exposed to hate decayed rapidly, and the rice left alone, neglected, became moldy in a way that suggested silence too has power. Now, replace the rice with your liver, your lungs, your skin, your nervous system. Ask yourself, which jar do I place them in every day? Am I nourishing my body with words of appreciation and care? Or am I berating it, ignoring it, punishing it for being human? Because here's what we now know. Silence can be corrosive. Indifference breeds decay. The absence of positive input is not neutral, it's negative by default. Your cells are not asking for perfection. They're asking for partnership. This is not about magical thinking. This is not about denying medical care or pretending positive thoughts can erase all pain. This is about understanding that you are an active participant in your healing, that your voice carries the power to reinforce or rewire the biological systems you inhabit. The placebo effect has long been dismissed as a nuisance in clinical trials. But perhaps it is something more profound. Perhaps it is evidence that belief, particularly when paired with expectation, can stimulate real, measurable change in the body. If so, then words, which shape belief, are not weak. They are fundamental tools in the architecture of healing. Imagine a society where we teach children not only to read and write, but to speak to themselves with reverence. Imagine medical protocols that include not only prescriptions, but guided self-dialogue. Imagine public health campaigns that educate people on how language influences biology, not as wishful thinking, but as evidence-based practice. Because the future of health is not only in genetics or pharmaceuticals, it is in conscious participation. It is in the realization that you are not a passive patient, but a co-creator. That your biology responds not just to pills or surgeries, but to meaning, to belief, to intention, translated through language. And it's not just the words you speak, it's the tone. Neuroscience tells us that vocal tone can influence the vagus nerve, which in turn regulates digestion, heart rate, and mood. A calm, loving voice even directed inward can signal safety. And safety, biologically speaking, is the precondition for healing. So when Dolores Cannon said, "Talk to your body," she wasn't indulging in mysticism. She was articulating in intuitive terms what science is only now beginning to quantify. That healing begins with communication. That consciousness is not separate from matter, it informs it. The body is not a battlefield to be conquered. It is a garden to be tended. You are not the victim of your biology. You are the steward of it. You are not born ashamed of your body. You are taught to be. You are not born believing you are broken. You are told you are, and not by any one person, but by the quiet chorus of culture, humming its tune beneath our awareness. From childhood, we are spoken to in ways that shape our biology before we can even form our own beliefs. A parent's scolding, a classmate's mockery, a doctor's dismissive tone. These moments imprint not just in memory, but in flesh. They shape posture, breathing, immune response. They program the internal dialogue we later mistake as our own voice. We internalize society's language and wear it like skin. We call it identity, but often it's just conditioning in disguise. What does that mean for healing? It means healing is not just personal, it is political. It is cultural. It is linguistic. Because when the dominant story says, you are defective, you are weak, you are your diagnosis, then even before you try to get better, you're fighting upstream against a current of collective programming. We live in a world where commercials sell you solutions by first selling you insecurity, where public health campaigns warn you of risk but rarely teach you inner resilience, where illness is medicalized but not humanized, where you're told what you are but not who you are becoming. And all the while, your body listens, not just to your voice, but to the ambient noise of culture. And what does that voice often say? It says, aging is decline. It says, pain means you're weak. It says, health comes from outside of you. But let's stop and challenge those assumptions. What if aging is not a breakdown, but a biological evolution toward wisdom and adaptability? What if pain is not the enemy, but the language of internal truth asking to be heard? And what if health is not something you receive, but something you build from the inside out? The dominant cultural voice will not offer you this perspective. But science is catching up to what philosophy and ancient medicine have long whispered, that the story you tell about your body becomes the environment in which your body lives. When the cultural story is one of fear, compliance, and dependence, it becomes an anesthetic against agency. But when the story shifts, when we speak of the body not as fragile, but as responsive, intelligent, and resilient, we awaken something dormant in the collective mind. You see, language does not just describe reality, it constructs it. When a scientist describes a phenomenon, their choice of words frames how it will be studied. When a doctor speaks to a patient, their tone determines not just comfort, but compliance, expectation, outcome. So imagine then the cumulative effect of millions of people speaking the same disempowering story to their cells every day. I'll never get better. My body is working against me. This is just how it is. These aren't harmless thoughts. They are memetic viruses, linguistic pathogens passed from generation to generation. Camouflage as realism, reinforced by media, codified in culture. But here's where the revolution begins. The moment you question that voice, the moment you challenge the tone, the moment you interrupt the inherited script and say, no, I choose a different message. And when you do, you're not just speaking to your body, you're speaking to every cell in the human collective that has forgotten its own power. You become a node of coherence in the global network of consciousness. You begin to change not only your biochemistry, but the linguistic DNA of your species, because evolution is not just biological, it is narrative. It is the story that adapts. And right now, the story of health is evolving from passive treatment to conscious participation, from mechanical repair to internal collaboration, from fear to dialogue, from silence to voice. You don't have to be a doctor or a scientist to participate. You just have to speak, not outwardly to impress, but inwardly to transform. Let me put it plainly. If we can alter gene expression through belief, if we can modulate pain through thought, if we can affect heart rhythm through breath, then healing is not limited to medicine. It is expanded by meaning, and meaning is something only you can assign. This is why language matters, because language is the carrier of meaning. And when you say, I'm healing, even when you don't yet feel healed, you are not lying. You are locating yourself in a narrative of becoming rather than a label of decay. It's not false hope. It's active authorship. So speak not with the arrogance of certainty, but with the courage of participation. Say, I trust my body to find equilibrium. I release what no longer serves me. I am not my diagnosis. I am the author of what comes next. I choose words that restore. I speak life into my cells. I am a living dialogue, and I choose to speak healing. Say it not once, but often. Not to convince the world, but to reprogram the code you've been running. Because the greatest experiment you will ever conduct is the one where you speak to yourself differently and observe what changes, and change will come. Not always as a miracle, but as a shift. A new breath, a better night's sleep, a lowered heart rate, a body that begins perhaps for the first time to feel like home. And from there, who knows? We've already seen spontaneous remission. We've documented the power of belief. We've tracked the biology of forgiveness. So don't underestimate the moment when you look into a mirror and not only see yourself, but speak to yourself kindly, clearly, deliberately, and mean it. Because that moment is not small, it's not silly, it's not self-help fluff. It's the sound of the cosmos, collapsing inward to whisper through you, I am listening. And your body, like a galaxy in miniature, answers back, I hear you, look around you. We've peered into black holes, landed rovers on Mars, and mapped the human genome. Yet amid all that outer exploration, we have just begun to touch the edges of the most profound frontier of all, inner space. The cosmos within. A single cell in your body contains more complexity than a city. Mitochondria churn out energy, like fusion reactors. DNA strands, coiled with mathematical precision, carry ancestral knowledge coded in biochemical stardust. Proteins fold with origami elegance, obeying a choreography too intricate for even our most powerful supercomputers to fully replicate. And it's all happening right now, beneath your awareness, without your permission, in service to you. Yet how often do we marvel at this? How often do we pause a not to judge our bodies, but to honor them? Not to fix them, but to befriend them? The irony is this. We go looking for miracles in distant galaxies, not realizing we are the miracle. A walking, breathing, regenerating constellation of cells, all waiting for their star you to speak. You are not separate from your body. You are not trapped in it. You are not at war with it. You are it, and it is you. A conversation across time and tissue, a dialogue in motion. And when you begin to see your body this way, not as machinery, but as music, not as flawed, but as fluid, you stop blaming it. you start communicating with it. And when you do, something shifts. You move from frustration to partnership, from resistance to reverence. Science will continue to give us tool spills, surgeries, scans, but what science cannot give us is meaning. That must come from within. And meaning is what gives voice its power. You see, we were never meant to be mute participants in our biology. We were meant to be conductors, not in control of every note, but responsible for the rhythm, the direction, the tone. You're not just alive, you are life-aware. And in that awareness lies the greatest medicine of all. We often ask, what is the cure? But perhaps the deeper question is, what is the message? Because every symptom, every ache, every imbalance carries one. A message of misalignment, a message of neglect, a message of fear, but also, potentially, a message of awakening. And here's the quiet revolution. When you stop resisting the message, you begin to receive it. When you receive it, you can respond. And when you respond with voice, with language, with love, you begin to rewrite the very script your cells are following. And they will follow, not because you command with force, but because you lead with coherence. This is the future of medicine, a future where technology is paired with consciousness, where data is balanced with dialogue, where biology is not seen as broken, but as intelligent and listening. This future won't arrive through institutions alone. It will arrive through individuals, people like you who stop waiting to be fixed and start speaking as if they were already whole, not because they are naive, but because they are brave. Because healing is not guaranteed, but speaking life into your body gives it the conditions where healing can begin. And if nothing else, it dignifies the body that has carried you this far. So speak. Speak through pain. Speak through doubt. Speak even if your voice shakes. Say to your bones, thank you for holding me. Say to your scars, you remind me I survived. Say to your cells, I'm with you now. I'm listening. I'm learning. Say to your whole body, I love you. I choose you. I believe in your wisdom. And then, wait, not with impatience, but with trust, because your body, your intelligent universe, will answer, not always with instant relief, but with tiny shifts, with new sensations, with rest where there was restlessness, with warmth where there was numbness, with clarity where there was fog, and over time, perhaps not overnight, but inevitably you will realize something, that you didn't just heal your body, you reunited with it, and in doing so, you return to your origin story. You, a conscious agent of life, a stardust being made of water, atoms, emotion, and intent, remembered that the voice that travels furthest is the one turned inward, not shouted, not doubted, but spoken gently and with love, because in the end, to speak is to create, and to speak to your body is to honor creation itself. So speak. Speak like the universe is listening, because it is. And its closest microphone is you.